What's happening, everyone? Nicky Hawkins, West Ham Fan TV on the West Ham Fan TV podcast, episode 2. Dan, how did the first one go down, mate?
Yeah, I mean, we had good feedback. Obviously, we still got to get it on. I'm trying to get it on iTunes and Spotify. I'll do that for this one. And we got to get it on YouTube. So we only had it on Podbean. So apart from that, people who did listen to it enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was a decent little podcast. It was over an hour.
Yeah. There was a bit, I mean, there's been a lot to talk about. So we've had a lot to go through. And now this week, there's even more to go through. So it should be a good one.
Oh, isn't there just? How's your week been anyway, mate?
Mine, I mean, I'm still angry from Monday. So I'm really been carrying it with me. I didn't sleep that night. The next day I was really cranky. So, yeah, I've been struggling to let that one go, to be honest.
We've got to say, before we introduce our guest, we've got a couple of stories to tell. Big congratulations to my best mate. I was best man at Ryan's wedding. You went to that, mate. I was in a bit of a pickle, weren't I?
You was wasted, mate. When I got there, I don't know how it happened, because obviously you can take a lot of drink.
Yeah,
you can really take a lot of drink. So I was like, it was only like 7:30, and he was completely gone.
It's the wine. I just can't act wine. That's right. The only thing that I can't act. I can drink.
If we want to get you drunk, wine.
Yeah, it's definitely wine. So this week for the podcast, we've got a guest. I invited him on last week, and he was very kind enough to accept the invitation. We've got a bit of history, me and Sean. We don't particularly get on at times. You know, we disagree on a lot of things. We argue one point, and he argues the other. So I'm very glad I knew you would. I knew you would.
I don't duck interviews, Nicky. Never.
No, I know you don't, mate. I know you don't. But columnist, Wooster founder, Claret and You columnist, anything else?
Podcaster.
Well, of course, podcaster.
More than just a podcast as well. Yeah. You're the new competition, obviously.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, we're trying to make our way into this game. You're 9 seasons deep. But I must introduce our guest, Sean Whetstone. Sean, how are you doing, mate?
I'm good. I mean, like you. I mean, Monday was a disappointment. I live in Surrey, as a lot of people know, so I've got a train strike for the whole of December. So I had to make a lot of effort to get to the game. It was cold, it was windy, and to watch that rubbish, and then try and battle home was and be with all the Gooners as well, going that way back. It was tough. It was a hard Tuesday morning.
Are you at the point where a lot of us are, where it's just like, oh, I've got to go there, and you don't feel the excitement.
A chore. Yeah, I mean, but you do it, don't you? You don't just turn around. West Ham is our life, You don't just go, oh, I ain't going to go anymore because they're not winning games. You got to show your support, and I stayed to the end as well. I know a lot of people left. And look, I'm no angel. I have left in the past. I've got a sort of 4-goal rule if we were 4-0 down. But, I thought I should stay to the end, and I did stay to the end. I was one of very few in my stand, but, you've got to do it, haven't you?
What I would say, we've got a couple of games to cover before we start having a chat about different things. What I would say is the Wolves game, if the Wolves game was bad, I saw bits of improvement in the Arsenal game. I will say that. I saw bits of improvement until the capitulation. And I think the capitulation is what gets me. The Wolves game was, I thought we were awful, if I'm honest. I was at the game. I watched the game from the stands. I never felt like we was going to score. I never felt like we posed any sort of threat to Wolves. And I thought we were really bad. Some people watched it on the telly, saw a different game. Did any of you see it any differently to me?
Well, I was at the ground the same as you, and I thought it was awful. Like, and everyone around me, was just getting so frustrated. But some people who Scott and I watched on the telly was like, it was all right. So
yeah, I watched it on TV. I thought it was awful as well. I thought Premier the what's it called? Amazon Prime coverage was awful as well. I had to turn off the commentary in the end. I couldn't hack the.
Oh, you're not a fan of the Amazon Prime thing? I was quite.
Well, I just didn't like they had a Scouse woman on, and look, I've got nothing against Scouse women, but I did. She grated me a little bit, and I just didn't like the commentary. I prefer Sky so far. I mean, I've only watched one game.
I was surprised because I watched the first round of games on Amazon Prime that was on the day before, and I was quite impressed with the coverage. I was quite impressed with the options you got, the instant. I remember them doing something like that back in like the early 2000s with the red button on Sky Digital, where you could do sort of different options and alternative commentary, and watch highlights and things like that. But they sort of phased that out after a little while. But I was quite impressed because I was switching between two games. At one point, I was watching the City game and the Palace game at the same time. I know they were staggered, but you know, switching between the two, you know, I was missing goals. You know, there was every time I switched over, I seemed to miss a goal. But you could go straight back and watch the highlights. I was quite impressed with that.
Yeah, you just scroll down and you can see the clips back of any highlights.
Yeah, any highlights. And I was quite impressed with the Amazon, but I wasn't impressed with the West Ham team. Come Saturday, which is a more recent game that we really need to get into. Look, Monday. Saturday, I was wasted Saturday, Sean. You should have seen me, mate. I was gone.
I've seen some of the videos of the dancing. So yeah.
Oh, Graham.
Graham. Yeah.
That was classic.
He's got some moves, old Graham. But come Monday, the worrying thing for me in all of this is just the way we absolutely capitulate, because we was in control of that game. Again, didn't think we looked threatening. Didn't think we looked like we'd score. And I thought that once Ogbonna got that goal, it was a very lucky goal.
Yeah.
You know, big deflection off the defender. I thought we might kick on, and we didn't kick on. And they just kept on giving us chance after chance after chance. And we're so, what's the word? We're so toothless up front.
Yeah.
And that worries me because you know in this league now, especially down where we are, if you can't score goals, you're going to lose games because we can't defend either.
I mean, I thought Arsenal were awful up until obviously we, as you say, capitulated. I thought it was definitely, it seemed so easy. So I think it was a bit of a false flag that we were good or anything like that, because I think our way of playing, a lot of teams, you know, when they press us, that's where it all falls apart. Arsenal didn't press. So we had a bit more freedom and a little bit more space. So I think that's where, you know, we had more of those opportunities going forward. But like you said, no threat at all. And then once they realised, you know, because that's what you're like in defence mode, you think, oh, crap, you know, we're on the back foot. They're going to score. And once you realise there's no defence, there's no offence or no threat, they go, oh, we might as well go for it.
Sean, do you agree with that?
Well, yeah, I do. And I said on our podcast yesterday, I said, you know, it was a contest on who's the shittiest team in London. And for the first sort of 45 minutes, it was Arsenal. You know, they were the shittiest team. But then in 10 minutes, we lost our heads. And, you know, it was a close run thing. I thought it might be, a decide on who's the shittiest team in the Premier League in London. It was going to be a draw. But we lost our heads, and there's no desire there. Our heads went down, you know, and 3-1. It could have been 4-1, 5-1. It's
that happens quite often, didn't it? Like, you know, we scored once that one goal goes in. That's it. You know, we're out of the game, and it's just inevitable.
Stat attack, right? Stat attack for Arsenal. They haven't come back after they go down. They haven't come back for 8 years. 8 years.
Yeah, I read that stat. Yeah, I read that.
And I'll tell you what was really is I'm right next to the away fans. So I'm in the West Stand, right next to the away fans. They were giving it large when goal after goal went in. Remember, they were unbeaten in 9 games. Hello, West Ham. Sorry, unbeaten. They were without a win.
They hadn't won in 9 games.
Yeah. Won in 9 games.
Well, what team do you want to play when you ain't won in 9 games and a team?
Yeah, West Ham every time.
Yeah,
it tells you how far they've fallen, though. Arsenal, the way they were celebrating at the end, you know, it was like they'd won the league, and now the way they're reacting now, they let off a flare. I didn't even see it at the game, but they let off a flare when they scored.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, and they jumped over the sig line when West Ham scored the goal and caused a bit of bother. up in the upper tier as well. But yeah, they were singing
they need to sort out that seg line. I've been saying this for ages. It's not good enough to have that as a seg line. There's not enough stewards up there. I've said it for a long time since. I know it's proved. I mean, I remember when we first got to the stadium against Watford. I remember there was no stewards up there at all.
No,
and people just started climbing over what was green tarpaulin. Then it wasn't even sponsored tarpaulin; it was green tarpaulin, and they was just jumping over there. They've got to improve it up there because once one season. There's going to be loads and loads of teams doing that when
Well, that's where they're going to put the away. That's where they're going to put the family stand, though.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I was watching. I already thought it was our family stand, and I was looking at Ryan, who was sitting next to me, and saying to him, "Well, is that the family enclosure that they're attacking there?" He's like, "Well, yeah, I think so." But
imagine if we get relegated and Millwall come there. Chaos.
Yeah. It'll be half empty though, won't it? You're going to have the biggest seg line possible. Probably won't use the upper tier.
Yeah, no, probably not. No, but yeah, it's worrying. More worrying than I think the capitulation is the comments from the manager after midweek and in the week on Monday, which was. On Wednesday, it was, we need to win our home games, really. They're more important than our away games. And then on Monday, I'm not worried about relegation. I mean, let's break them down. For one, not worried about away games, but we haven't won at home since September.
Yeah. Early September, wasn't it?
Early September, yeah. It was Manchester United.
It's like 3 months, basically.
To make it worse, I don't know if you saw the Sky bit. I ran a video on Clarence Hugh, and he went, they said, "What about your future?" He went, "Nothing to do with me." In that kind of a He said, "Well, what do you think?" "It's nothing to do with me.
That's not my decision." Manager on the end.
And it was just, I don't care. I don't care. I've got no passion. We know he's not an emotional man, but just go. He doesn't help himself. Nothing to do with me. It's not my decision. Nothing to do with me. He just repeated it. In the end, he just walked off. That's not a man fighting for his job, is it?
No, but this is the thing, though, Sean. And I said this from the start. Look, I was well behind. People can sort of call me a little bit fickle, but you can only react to what's in front of you at the time. Do you know what I mean? Like last season, I don't think it was fantastic. I'll give him a bit of the benefit of the doubt. But we picked up a couple of nice results. We had a nice December and everything else. And I give him the benefit of the doubt because I thought, well, this is a build in the team. And I was quite pleased with some of the signings we made in the summer. Some of them haven't quite worked out. I don't think you can really blame the club for that. We all thought Fornells was going to come and be an absolute superstar. We all thought Haller was going to be the missing piece of the puzzle. For me, the board are going to come under a lot of criticism again because there's been pieces of the puzzle that have been, when you get them pieces in, if you remove other pieces, the puzzle's still incomplete, and that's a strike partner for Haller.
Yeah. And do you know what? This will shock you, Nicky. I don't disagree with you. And in fact, we wrote an article last night. Hugh and I wrote an article about this. The board haven't delivered on their promises. They sold us a dream. They sold us world-class stadium, world-class team, next level European football, and we got sucked into that dream, and it hasn't been delivered. And we need to be realists now and say, actually, we're a mid-table team, mediocre. Maybe our ambition should not to be relegated, but to say the stadium is going to take us to the next level, to say that we are going to be top 6 or top 4, it is fantasy, and we need to have a reality check and say, we got carried away with a dream that probably wasn't achievable.
But to be fair, Sean, I'm going to just cut in there. Is they weren't our dreams, they weren't our ambitions. We half of us wasn't even sold a dream. It was forced down our throat. We went there reluctantly. We went there. A lot of people went there with low expectations, but when they sat you in that room and then started playing the videos and all that, we wasn't asking for Champions League. We had a very good season on the back of the last season at the Boleyn. We'd had a very good season, and for me, that was a perfect stepping point. Now, we're 4 years into the London Stadium now. it's going to take a lot of work to get anywhere near that top 6. But if the season was going to be the season, it was going to be this season, because there are so many teams that are dropping points. You know, Tottenham are misfiring, Arsenal are misfiring, Manchester United are misfiring. There was we had masses of opportunities, even at the beginning of this season, to go third in the league and stay there. You look what Leicester are doing. Leicester are blowing Man City out of the water. You know, they're the ones, you know, closing in on you know, Champions League football. They're the ones that are breaking the mold at the minute. And that, for me, with the stadium, and I know you was very, what's the word? You was very pro move.
I was
and all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean?
I'm very pro move, and I won't behind it. You know, I was on the SAB at the time and chairman of the Olympic Stadium was committee to do it. And you know, personally, I still like the stadium, and I've said to people, it's not about concrete and steel. And I said this on my podcast last night. If we'd have won every single game in the last 4 years, every single home game, we wouldn't be talking about the stadium. We wouldn't be talking about a soulless bowl or anything. We would say how amazing we've won every single game. We support West Ham to watch football, and it's results on the pitch that make the difference. If other things are going wrong, you look at the stadium, you look at other things. And as for the soulless bowl, again, it's supporters that create atmosphere. You know, if you've seen some Olympic stadiums in Europe, and they create an amazing atmosphere, and I'm not blaming the supporters, but it's always created by supporters.
Well, I think for whatever reason, getting the way they done the move is the fans were split up, and not enough was done to make sure that there were singing sections. So it's hard to get an atmosphere. It's sort of, they did the thing where you could do the ticket and swap and start to move, but it's still going to take ages to try and obviously get them sections in. I mean, you've got the block, what is it, 114 or 113 next to the
that's
away.
Where I am. It's
such a thin sliver of where you compare it to like the chicken run. It's even smaller than what the chicken run was. So I think that's where it's hard with the atmosphere. It's not easy to say.
We came from Chav Corner, by the way. They moved us en masse. So most of the people in 113, 114, we all came from Chav Corner. The people in Bobby Moore Lower tend to come from the old Bobby Moore Lower. So they have tried to do it, but the problem is, of course, you get a lot of tourist people breaking it all up and everything. There's been some good games, I'm sure you'd agree, where the atmosphere's been brilliant. You know, there's the Palace game, there's been a Chelsea game in the Cup. You know, there's been some exceptions to the rule where the place has just rocked, but it's too far and few between.
I'd sort of disagree with Sean at times about the stadium. I mean, I can't stand it. I can't sway your opinion on whether you like it or not. It is a soulless bowl. It's the sight lines are so far away from the pitch, and we was told that they wasn't going to be. You know, we've all seen the David Gold interviews from back in 2012 or 2013 or 2014 or whatever it was, when we when we was agreeing for the stadium, saying that they won't be any further apart. There's no intimidation factor. We've lost all of our community. We're selling tickets now. You know, I've been pulled into the ticket office because I give my mate a ticket. And you know, they were selling tickets to people that don't support West Ham themselves. I've seen people walking through the concourses in, you know, other team shirts because of the Newham scheme. I think a few of the Newham games we see on Monday night that, you know, there was when Pepe scored the goal, there's a video going around. There's 5 or 6 Arsenal fans in a row.
Yeah, saw it.
In a row,
it's not good.
Celebrating goals in the home end.
I only can say about my selfish point of view, my sightline's good. I'm probably one of the closest to the pitch because I sit in 113. 113 is right near the corner flag, and I've got a side view. So I've got a really good seat. Would I sit in the upper tier? Absolutely not. So I do get you about sightlines, but I would only sit in the lower tier anyway because I've never sat high anyway, and I wouldn't want to watch that. But it's horses for courses.
You wouldn't agree that this was all lies? Do you think do you think this was misinformation or lies?
Well, you see, you can get in semantics about what is a lie and misinformation. We were over marketed without a doubt. We were, you know, it's a good old fashioned sales pitch. You know, we it was an opportunity that the business people thought was too good to turn down. You know, the rent that we'd pay compared to redeveloping in Bowling Green. Look, I spent a long time at Bowling Green. I love Bowling Green. Do I miss it? Absolutely. But equally, it's different at the London Stadium. You know, transport for me is better getting to from Surrey, getting to the London Stadium than it is to the Bowling Ground. The facilities, drinking, etc., is different. Again, you know, I used to drink in the Black Line, but you know, there's no point crying over spilt milk. It's done, and therefore you change your match day ritual, and you have to get on with it because there's no going back. We support our team. We don't support a stadium. We don't support even the owners. Owners come and go. Players come and go. Stadiums even come and go over 100 years. We support the team, and you just get on with it.
I think the thing is why a reason why we shouldn't forget the stadium, and we shouldn't sort of people say stop going on about the stadium or forget the old stadium, is we paid a price, you know, to move to the so-called next level, which was moving stadiums. That's the reason we moved, because we had to attract better players to move to the next level. So every time we see that we're in this either mid-table mediocrity or the relegation battle, then you can only, you know, keep going back to it and go, well, look, we moved for this reason. Like Leicester, I think their stadium's smaller than what Upton Park was, you know, and they're flying, you know, miles ahead of us. So I think it is important to remember it and to hold it over them and say, you need to fulfill. We sold our soul, if you like, if you know, whether you agree with that or not, but we have to get something in return for what we've given up, you know. And
I'm going to be totally honest here. Them two. And I know you're quite close to him, Sean, and we're going to have a discussion about this in a minute. Them two in charge are the biggest pair of charlatans I've ever come across in the world. They absolutely, from day one, when they was going to take over that club, knew that there was a chance that they was going to get that London Stadium. Absolutely. There was no other doubt in their minds. They tried to do it with Birmingham. They had discussions with councils and things with Birmingham. And they've done exactly the same at Birmingham as they're doing now. And what they're doing, they knew they was going to get that stadium. They knew they was going to sell off the, you know, the Bowling Ground. There's some question marks over how that was sold, for one, being transferred to one developer who then sold it for a profit the next day, which is, and now that the company's going insolvent and not operating anymore, something like Bowling
Phoenix. There's a story to that. You ask me later, and I'll tell you about it. But
you know, there's something definitely not right there. They take it, and let's be honest, Sean. Before the protests of last year, you know, before bubbles on the pitch and all that sort of stuff, there was running on empty. They wasn't even attempting to deliver promises. There hasn't been, you know. Anderson, last year he cost a lot of money. They spent probably £70 million last year when you take into account the money we got back and all of that stuff. They knew that they couldn't do it again in the summer because people were cottoning on because of, you know, channels like us, and they realised people are cottoning on to what they're trying to do. They're trying to get to a point where they're going to sell the club. I've got no doubt in my mind. Nobody can convince me any other way. They're getting to a point where they can get to that no profit share clause in that contract with the LDC. They still believe that they're going to get that stadium. They still believe that they're going to be able to obtain that stadium one way or the other. And I've had that from, you know, we've been told that. We went to a meeting before where, you know, somebody up the top pretty much confirmed that you know, that was the plan. And they're trying to run this club on fumes. You know, it's like going to the petrol station and not filling up the petrol tank. They're trying to coast it until they can get to that point. They are deflecting blame on managers. I think that's why our managers become very disillusioned with life at West Ham. You know, Pellegrini, as you said before, he's not a very passionate man, right?
No.
I know Slav was a very passionate man, and I remember going into the room with Slav, talking to Slav, and he was broken. He was broken about, you know, the chairman and, you know, signings that he'd made and things like that. I think he's a very, you know, when you claim to be West Ham fans, as the Ball do, You know, I'm not going to, you know, refute their claims that they are. But when you claim to be West Ham fans and you want the best for the club and all that sort of stuff, you know, you've got, you know, they said we was going to get extra revenue from going into the stadium. I argued at the time, you know, a price of a ticket now doesn't, you know, it doesn't make any difference in football. It's all about football money. It's all about TV money. Sorry. The price of a ticket, an extra Upton Park on top of Upton Park isn't going to make the difference whether we can compete at the top or not. And that is what they made it sound like. That, as I said, they're trying to coast it. And a lot of people are getting disillusioned. And the most worrying thing about what come out the Arsenal game for me, after the capitulation, after we lost, was the lack of people that I know have been going to West Ham for 20, 30, 40, 50 years saying, oh, do you know what? I don't care no more. I don't care no more because nobody else seems to care. The players are there not caring. It seems like the chairman don't care. The only thing that the chairman care about is the money in their wallets. That's what
relegation will cost them big, more than it did last time.
You know they've diced with death a couple of times since we've been in this stadium. You know they're very reluctant to pull the trigger. Very reluctant to pull the trigger.
Yeah, it's not
a lot of money to get rid of. Pellegrini doesn't care, in my opinion, Sean, because he's a manager that is on his last job. He came back to the Premier League after being in China and they fucking slapped 8 million quid in his face. And he thought, I'll have a bit of that before I retire, you know, for 3 years. You know, nobody seems to care, but they have to do the right thing. I've offered them a chance to come forward onto West Ham Fan TV. You know, they've done an interview with you. I know David Gold done an interview with you last year. They've done an interview with the West Ham Way. They won't talk to us. They won't talk to us, and I'm trying to get my head around why. I think I can sort of guess why, but you know they need to come forward after they've sold so many people down the river. So this is becoming a bit of a monologue. It's not really a podcast. Before they come, before they go off into the night and sell off the stadium, which we all know they're going to do. They need to explain to people what's going on. Look, I can understand if they thought they could do things a certain way and certain things ain't come off, but they need to come forward and explain it. They need. I think they owe people an explanation.
Yeah, I can't answer them. Let me just answer some of those things, Nicky. I'm not an apologist for them. I'm not going to try and be. I think they are well intentioned. We've got to take them at their word. David Gold, obviously, relationship with West Ham goes way back. There's no hiding their businessmen, but they're very wealthy businessmen. I believe they won't sell. David Gold is 83. You know, he's got $500 million, right? What's he going to do? Sells the club for 800 million. What's he going to do with his 300 million? You know, it's about his kids now. He probably hasn't got that long left. David Sullivan, he's 70, had triple heart bypass, had some medical things. You know, he's not going to be around for another 20 years. He's not going to get to his 90. He's got 1.2 billion. By the way, he hasn't made it from West Ham. He's made it from property. I don't believe they want to sell. You're right that there is no penalty after 2023. But I don't think they want to sell. The big question for me, by the way, is when they hand it down to their kids, Jack and David and Jacqueline and Vanessa, what the kids do with it. That's the big question to me. I think they may sell up because they won't have the passion. But, you know, you've got two businessmen that have proved themselves. Money probably doesn't mean as much as them, and it did. And I know everybody will go, yeah, they just sell it. I just don't think they will.
That's would they not give the money to their kids? Would they not sell it and then go, right here, kids, you can start your own business?
I've asked them this question time and time again. They say, no, I only can repeat what I've been told. And I do believe them that they like the thrill of running West Ham and everything else. And this is what they live for now more than anything else. You know, running a property company, running a Ann Summers company, West Ham, they enjoy the lifestyle and what it brings with them, along with the stress. Buying the London Stadium, again, in the near future is a no-no. The thing loses £30 million a year. Even if you gave it to West Ham, they wouldn't want it. It loses £30 million a year. I talked to even Karen about this. She wouldn't take it without a government subsidy. Even if you took away athletics, £4 million a year. Even if you took away, added on the naming rights, so that's another 4 million. That's 8 million off. It still loses, you know, another 22 million pounds. It is poorly constructed, and therefore it's loss-making and will be loss-making for the next 10 years. West Ham will be mad to take it over.
But you could argue, Sean, but that once, you know, being a Premier League football club that makes that much money, you know, take away the conversion, you know, you know, we could get it into a point where it becomes a football stadium. You know, we all know the hold-ups. We've all known the secrets behind the court cases and, you know, this. But a Premier League football club would have more rights to, you know, the catering for a start would.
Yeah, but the 25-year contract for catering, unless you buy it, they're not going to give it up easily. Unless you buy out the catering contract, then there's the you know, everybody's on the not on the tape, but everybody's taking a slice. This is why public sector is losing millions. In its current contractual way, West Ham would be mad, and they would be mad to take it over. If when all the political dust dies down about the stadium and all these contracts expire, would it be worth taking over in 25 years? Yeah, but I tell you what, the current owners won't be around by the time these contracts end. That's my view. You may have a different view. I'm saying it makes no business sense to take over the stadium probably in the next 25 years while the current contracts are in place.
It's £1 billion worth of land, at least.
Yeah, but you're never going to get. So it's only leased by LLDC. Lease it to E20 for 99 years. That land will only be leased. You don't get the land. You get a lease for the land for 99. Well, less than 99 years. It's obviously 94 years now.
Yeah, I think there's going to be more development.
We'll see. Come back to me. 25 years, Nicky.
Let's talk about a few things. Do you honestly think, Sean, in your heart of hearts, that these people have the fans at heart?
It's really difficult. I think they care what the fans think, honestly. They agonise. They agonise over the Avram Grant thing. They agonise what the fans think. They were really shocked by the Burnley, Nicky, really. And they desperately don't want a Burnley again.
Have they got their Have they got their head in the sand? If they were shocked by Burnley, have they got their head firmly planted up their arseholes? Because
it's on the horizon again, I'm telling you.
Yeah, they're not far away. And, you know, that was a culmination of years and years and years of frustration, of them getting, you know, confronted in the street. You know, I remember West Brom being one when Sullivan got, you know, and I don't agree with them things. I don't agree with them things whatsoever. But they, you know, David Gold, and you know, he's an old man. He's getting stopped in the street in his car. You know, they're blocking his car from going through. If you couldn't see that was coming, you've got to be blind, and you've got to be living in an ivory tower. And this is the point that what I make about the board is, if you can't see that coming, you're not listening. And if you're not listening, then you're not doing what the best for what the people that are coming to view that product or buy your product. You know, you're not doing the best for them because you are not listening. You're not, you know, you're not putting your ear to the floor and seeing what's happening in the streets. It's either they don't see or they don't care. And it's got
I think the problem is when you're at the top of an organization, you get information gets filtered to you because they don't spend their life watching YouTube and your channel or looking at what's being said on Twitter.
I know one of their sons do.
Yeah, well, maybe. But you see, we sometimes live in a West Ham bubble, and sometimes they may think, well, it's a vocal minority of this. Burnley was different, and I think it was a perfect storm of a lot of reasons, which we don't really want to go into, but it was a perfect storm. I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, that there's general apathy among the match-going fans. And if we think that 60,000 people, even if 60,000 people turned up, are ready to protest, I don't think that's the case. I think it's a minority of the old school fans who are upset and pissed off and have had enough. And they're in the hundreds, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's a majority. If you look at, let's say, 50,000 people turned up on Monday, I don't think it's a majority of 50,000 people. A lot of them are oblivious to this. They don't watch YouTube. They don't follow social media. They just go to the games and they're disappointed with the results. They don't think about the ball. They don't think about Pellegrini. They just go, it's not good enough. We're going to get relegated. So I really believe that we're not heading for a mass march or a mass protest. Maybe I'm wrong. I think there's apathy in general. And, you know, we've been diluted. A lot of the people, as you said earlier, Nicky, I know a lot of old school fans. Two of my mates, you know, my best mate and his son, you sit next to me on the podcast. They gave up their season ticket last year. They said they can't come anymore. You know, they don't like the board. They don't like the London Stadium. They gave it up. I know so many people that have done that. So year by year, it's being diluted. The old school fans that used to come to the Bowling Ground are going, nah, don't want to go back. So, look, of course they get told by Jack and David Sullivan Jr. what's going on social media, but I don't know what is the solution. You know, what do you want them to do? Do you think that, you know, when they appointed Pellegrini, you know, we're all delighted. I was delighted. I think, Nicky, you said you were delighted. Dan, I'm sure you will say as well. We didn't go, oh no. We didn't say, oh no, it's a has-been from China. Great with hindsight. You know, when we got, you know, Philippe Anderson, when we bought Sebastian Haller, when we got Fornals, we think, yeah, they're investing. Yeah, all right. So it's net £31 million spend.
This summer.
No, in general, we look after the last 10 years, the analysts have done it. It's a net £31 million net spend, which maybe is not good enough. And maybe we're outspent by Aston Villa, etc. But you know what? That's what the two owners are prepared to invest. They invested £52.5 million of loans in the early days. They've taken about £14 million of interest. They obviously bought the shares to begin with, around about 52 million, and then more when they bought more shares. But are they people who just want to pump money in or prepared to pump money in? No, they want West Ham to be sustainable and stand on its own. Now, they're the owners. Who are we to argue? You know, they're obviously not going to pump £100 million in. And other owners I know will charge interest free, and they're now charging, you know, 3-4%. That's what you got. Who's queuing up to buy West Ham? Where are the billionaires waiting to buy West Ham that are knocking on our door, saying we'll take over? I'm not sure they exist, Nicky. I really don't. They're buying championship clubs, by the way, now, not Premier League clubs. So maybe we have to become a championship club before we're bought.
Well, maybe it's funny actually you say that because you touched on earlier about relegation being, you know, financially disastrous for them. I wanted to put this to you because there's what I've seen a lot on Twitter of people saying that, you know, they want to go down because they might, you know, like I said, maybe be able to sell the club. Two, the whole parachute payments, they get all the parachute money coming in and all this money from getting relegated. What do you say to that? The fact that there is an incentive.
It would be financially disastrous for this club to go down. It would be financially disastrous for the chairman and the owners. There is no way anyone wants it. You know, personally, I quite enjoy a year in the Championship because you get to go to different grounds. I actually get some away tickets, and you get to see different grounds and etc. So it's a pain of being relegated. But here's the problem. You know, we bounce back. Well, I say bounce back. Took us 2 seasons, didn't it? But on one attempt and one on the other one. But it's a harder Championship now. And if we go down this time, I can see us there for 3 or 4 years, turning into a Sunderland or a Leeds, or, you know, how many more can you name? Stoke or any of those?
I agree. One more thing on one of the things that you said. Obviously, you said about us all being happy with Pellegrini. I mean, I had reservations, but ultimately, you know, I came around and thought this could be good. Or Felipe Anderson. The thing is, at the end of the day, we're just fans. You know,
yeah.
They're supposed to have the infrastructure and be able to do the full due diligence and have the scouting and all of this in place to see, okay, is this going to be a good fit for the club? You know, the players that we've got, is this manager going to be able to get the most out of this? And what we're going to do? What's the plan? They need, like, you know, to have plans in place and have the right people to give. We're just obviously going to look surface level. Who's really got the time? We've got full-time jobs. I mean, some of it, you know, we make videos, but you're not going to be having the where you're paid and it's your job to analyze and scout players. The problem I have is they haven't set up a proper infrastructure, like you said, like we say, the likes of Leicester, for getting the right people in place in the club, whether it's player personnel or managers. So
it's because I don't believe they know how to run a football club.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna shock you both by sort of agreeing with you. I think there is not enough vision. There is not enough strategy. Everything is knee-jerk reaction. And in some ways, and you know, this might sound like a harsh criticism for someone who's so pro-board, I think they try and run West Ham in the way they run Birmingham.
Do you think that what you do helps?
Do I think what I do helps? Look, it's a good question.
You know, I'm going to give you a quick go at us. Do you think what we do helps?
It's a good question for you as well. So I think that we're part of the ecosystem of a modern football club, social media, whether they be news sites, whether it be YouTube channels, etc. I think the club sometimes like what we do and they sometimes don't. You know, we're not so far in the club's pocket as some people would like to suggest. A lot of the articles, we get phone calls and go, I wish I hadn't run that, I wish I hadn't run that. This club, West Ham, leaks like a sieve. Always have, even before 2010, the current owners. Right? You could criticize, why do we leak? If we're not, people don't just leak to us. There's many different sources. Some senior, some not so senior, some agents that want to get their message across.
What do they get out of it?
What do they get out of it?
What do they get out of it?
What senior sources or agents? It depends.
I know what agents. We can all guess what an agent gets out of leaking sources. But what does? Let's say, for instance, I'm going to pick an article out. The Declan Rice wages. Right. That's obviously, Sean, come from a very senior source. You had every single detail of what he'd get in bonuses, what he'd get in basic and all that. Now, I looked at that and that, I'll be honest with you, Sean, that angered me. And I'm not a massive fan of Claret and Hugh. I'm not a massive fan of Hugh. I think Hugh sticks his foot in his mouth a few times. I think sometimes it is a bald mouthpiece, and I'm going to give you a chance to speak in a minute. But all these polls that you run, we're not stupid. We know that in between all of them polls, that there are polls run from the club because they want to know.
The Pellegrini one just gone up recently, I believe.
Yeah, but again, do you know what? Sometimes we're a news site and we're trying to bring news, and we wrote an article about we're independent. 99 out of 100 polls are complete independent, and we do it because we're generating traffic. We won't lie. Like you generate some clicks and you've got your sponsors, etc. We've got our sponsors, we've got our adverts, etc. It's a business as well as a hobby, right? Polls, it's ridiculous that maybe David Sullivan and David Gull go, will you run a poll? Will you run a poll? It just doesn't happen. The recent one, no. Have we been asked to run a poll ever? Yes, but very few and far between. I don't think we've run one in the last 2 years that someone in the club has asked to do. People won't believe that. If it wasn't us leaking other ones,
you got to pay quid now to get involved in a poll that would make a decision.
Yeah, our polls are free. Well, yeah, without the adverts. But if we go back to the Declan Rice, I don't know what people get out of it sometimes. And remember, there's this fallacy that everything comes, we're Sullivan's mouthpiece and everything comes David Sullivan. We get information from all over the club, all ex-employees, and that's not supposed to be a pun, but former employees, current employees, all different levels.
And what do they get out of it, though?
Well, I guess they get, I don't know, you would have to ask them, really, because it's a really good question. Sure. We're not paying them.
We're not having that.
Well, all right. So
there are people sitting there because I'm in this game.
Do we pay them? Do they pay us? No. Did someone who leaked the information about Declan Rice, did they have an agenda? Almost definitely. It was part of the negotiations with Declan Rice. Is that right? With hindsight, maybe no. But let me tell you this, Nicky.
That is it, Sean.
We do not release. We list. And you won't believe me on this, but probably 70% of what we hear, we do. There is a filter, and 70% of what we hear, we do not publish. only 30% gets published.
Well, I don't
maybe
publish anything. I hear things all the time. I've got people that know people and all of that sort of stuff. I'm not in the business of releasing, you know, a 20-year-old kid's, you know, wage packet. Well, I mean, going into that tweet, there's that one tweet. There's a couple more as well, which we'll get onto. How would you have felt, and what do you think would have happened if that information had come out? Because there was another thing recently about Fornals and you know, Roberto, you know, basically saying someone inside the club said they're shit, you know. But what would you have done if you'd have released them wages, if you'd have released that information, and Declan Rice would have come out in the press the next day and said, well, I'm not working for a club that's going to tell everyone what the fuck I'm going to get. I'm going to go to Man United tomorrow. By the way, you know, whoever's leaking these sources and all that, you need to stop. I'm not playing for a club like that. What would you have done?
Well, there's nothing we could have done. We would have been right in the shit.
Did you feel comfortable doing that to a young boy?
Yeah, I get with hindsight, you can see that actually.
Sure, you don't need hindsight for that.
Well, you say that, but when you're a news site, and you're given certain information, remember the agents play exactly this game. So if you think that the agents weren't briefing the press, Declan Rice's agent, you're mistaken, Nicky. It's the game they play, and you're right. He's a young boy, but the agents were briefing the press the other way, and it's the game they play. People in the club brief on one side, the agents brief on the other side. This is what the papers have been doing for years and years and years. Did it go into maybe too much detail?
You're supposed to be a West Ham.
We're a West Ham news site, yeah.
I'm assuming for West Ham fans.
That's our audience, yeah, for West Ham
fans. For a lot
fans.
of fans, mate, this isn't a game, is it?
I look. You picked on that particular story. We print maybe up to 20 stories a day. That one in particular, it didn't backfire. I know a lot of people feel strongly about it. It was 2 years ago. It all came out in the end because he signed his new contract.
Of course, right? Of course, but it was.
And you're right. If he'd have walked away and said, "I'm fed up with these leaks," etc., but just remember, we're not the one doing the leaking. And you're going to say this is defensive, but someone else would have written it, right? And whether it be the Guardian or whether it be the Sun, etc. That information.
Can I ask then the 70% of the stories then that you don't publish? Why don't you publish those then as opposed
because in our view they would be harmful.
So you would say that sometimes when you choose the ones that you think aren't harmful, you may get it wrong, and you may think,
look, there is a chance, and we try and filter it. Look, we're not perfect. Sometimes, we go, did we overstep the mark? Yeah, I'm sure. But there's the pressures of how many stories you're doing and etc. We, in the last year, we probably do 6,000 articles a year. Do we go, maybe we got that one a bit wrong? Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's a few though, Sean. I think there's a few that you get a bit wrong. Look, we're all guilty of it. I'm guilty of it.
But 6,000, Nicky. We're no angel. We're not perfect. But this club leaks from all angles.
And that's a problem. That's a big problem because we seem, in my view, we seem to leak more than any other club. Like it's mad.
But then again, I'd say, Dan, we're in a West Ham bubble. That I talk to my Newcastle friends, I talk to other people, and they've got all their YouTube channels and they've got their news sites, etc., and they're being fed information. Agents are the worst at leaking information to all kinds. So we only know because we live in a West Ham bubble.
I knew. Personally, I knew 6 or 7 weeks before he left that Payet was leaving. I knew that. I had a good source in the club who said that he'd stopped responding to anybody. He was packing up his locker basically every day. He's taking things out. He stopped. Eating with players, and he was eating on his own, isolating himself. He was on the phone to a lot of French people at the time. I knew 6 or 7 weeks he was going to go. 6 or 7 weeks before. Can you imagine the hits I would have got on my website, on my YouTube channel, or the things like that if I'd have decided to turn around and go, Payet's leaving?
Yeah, I get that.
You know, he was at the time.
But you took a decision, you filtered it, and you know, I could say the same about Marko Arnautovic, and obviously we knew things about Payet as well. But you don't go for everything. You take a decision. Sometimes, you know, and we have editorial meetings to make decisions. Sometimes we've got them wrong. Sometimes we've taken stories down. But the volume we're doing, you know, people sometimes mistakes, but I stand by the vast majority of the stories we do. We try and bring people the West Ham news. People often say they don't like leaking, but they love to read the stories and try and find out what's going on in the club, because we don't want to wait. No one wants to wait for the official website to say what's going on, etc. You imagine a world now of just only listening to the official website.
I think you're hiding a little bit behind them things there, Sean, because my view is, you know, if you do publish 6,000 articles, you start to get a gist of, you know, what is wrong, what is right, and all that sort of stuff. And I don't believe the amount of stuff. Like, I don't think that, you know, saying like Roberto, you know, we can see he's rubbish, and we can see Fornells hasn't performed as fans. You know, fans give their criticisms of that, but then turning around and publishing that a club source has told you that everybody don't think that they've done, you know, they're doing brilliantly, or everyone. I don't think it does any good for morale. And I'll say that about any. I'm not just going to pick on you, Sean. I don't.
Yeah.
You know,
but it's not just us, is it? We're not.
No,
you can't say that there are exclusives,
but,
and
you know,
and no other papers or no other ITKs or Twitter sources that were not saying similar things. You know, it's
not just you, but I don't think it helps. And I think with the stuff like that, I think that, you know, I think you should be more responsible, because I feel like you sell yourself for a little bit of information, and I think that's wrong. And I've got some questions for you later. A few of them are quite expletive, and I won't bother you with them ones. But
I've seen some of the ones that they've asked.
Yeah,
I mean, that with the Roberto thing, obviously that reminds me about, and I wanted to ask you about the whole these stories. Say like that. I think this came from you guys. Correct me if I'm wrong, or you might be one of the people. But the whole about how Pellegrini, he wanted Fabianski. The board. Pellegrini wanted Roberto to replace Fabianski, and all of this. It reminds me of back to Slav times when Slav was like all the crap players. It was basically Slav was responsible, and the good ones were, you know, the board's choice. And that sort of came around again when we're looking at some of the bad signings. You know, that always smacks to me of the board putting out information there to sort of take the heat off of them and onto the manager. Is that stuff that comes directly from them? That
no, we don't, Dan. You wouldn't expect us to talk about revealing our sources, but you know, information, as I've said, comes from all different places. Roberto, in particular, you're right. Everybody could see he was bad. I believe he was a recommendation from the director of football, Husilius. And you know, you've got to make your decision about Husilius. A lot of people were saying he's being thrown under the bus, but you've got to judge him. Were we told that he was the first choice before Fabianski? Yes, we were. Yeah, we were told that originally. It was a recommendation from Husilius to make him our first choice keeper before Fabianski was deal was done.
But it's funny the timing of those stories, because we never heard that when we'd signed Roberto. I don't remember that being a story of going, right, Husilios is doing this, he believes that he could be first choice. It seemed to be when Roberto was under pressure and people started to turn on Roberto, then that story comes out. I'm not, whether the board give that to you directly and you might not even know it. In my opinion and what I believe, so say you might get an employee in the club or something else, I believe that there is possibility that the board then can leak it to second and pass it through like second, third hand and saying, right, I'm going to pass this to you because I can't pass this on my information because obviously it's going to look like propaganda. So I'll pass it to you and then you leak it. I mean, that's obviously a bit of conspiracy, but that makes sense that that's possible for them to do. But it's the timing. I really question the timing of those types of stories. And it happened with Slav. when, you know, he was thrown under the bus with certain signings, like, oh yeah, he wanted all these bad ones and the board wanted this. It always seems to be when the pressure's on and they're trying to shift it, in my opinion. So I believe in some way it probably does come from the board.
Look, people have all kinds of agendas on why they give people information, and you've got to ask what their motivation is.
Do you ever question it? When you
why would I question? Well, do I question my sources? What your motivation is? No, absolutely not.
Because obviously, then I mean, certain things when you're getting certain information, you might think, well, look, this is how this might be appear, or this is how this might affect my credibility if I was to publish that.
Do I think about that? Yes. Yeah. I try and think about, you know, is this believable? Is this credible? And how will the fan base react to this? Yeah, of course. We try and factor in those things.
Do you think the Roberto story, in your opinion, was done to shift blame or shift the heat off of the board onto Pellegrini or his Silos, for example, when you think about, again, the timing of that story and when it came out?
It's hard not to say, yeah, I mean... whether it's right or not, it's all about perception, isn't it? And everybody has some kind of agenda behind it. So was it? But is it trying to shift the blame, or was the blame originally there? I don't know. Take your choice.
If it was there, then it's just that, again, it's the timing of it. Is that these stories don't come out when we're signing, which is it's quite interesting to know. Like, you know, that'd be timely, wouldn't it? We've just signed Roberto.
Let's just be honest. Pellegrini has to sign off on every signing, right? The board have to sign off. It's not just, here's £40 million, Pellegrini, do what you want. The board, the two owners need to sign off on the signing. Cameron Brady doesn't get involved. The director of football needs to sign off. So everybody's guilty. That you can't hide and say Roberto was nothing to do with us, right? Yeah. Everybody takes their responsibility for Roberto. But do you
think they're classless, Sean?
Do they think? Do I think?
Do you think they're classless people? Do you think they've got any dignity?
Who? The board. I do think they've got dignity, and I do think they worry about what people think about them. You know, Nicky, I really do.
Do you? Because that they obviously feed you so much information. They charge the most of any Premier League club for a mascot place. Yeah. People like criticize them all the time. Listen, there's enough money floating around that football club to make every place for free. A lot of the top clubs make their mascot places free. We're the most expensive. If you thought about, if you cared about what they thought about you, why would you do things like that? Why would you?
The mascot one, I tend to agree with you. It's at £700 for the Category A games, goes down to £300 for the Category C games. So it's not £700 for every single game. They give a number of places free for charity and good causes. But still, why would you put it up there that you're the most expensive for Category A games? Why are you the most expensive? And
Arsenal, they're all free. All the mascots.
I have said that to Cameron Brady in an OSB meeting. I said, why would we? It's part of her business case. She says it's part of her business case. And it wasn't up for discussion.
Money makes no difference. Money makes absolutely no difference. When you buy things on the website, I've heard today that they're asking for donations for the academy.
I didn't know that.
Company. I don't think they've got any class. You look at the way they sacked Avram Grant, not inviting him back on the team bus. No class, was already relegated. What difference does it make to them? You look at the way that Karen Brady went in her column and started insulting Benny McCarthy. Benny McCarthy was an awful, awful player for us. An awful player. And then she started saying things like, he's got bigger tits than me and, you know, he's overweight and all that. What was he wearing, a rain mat when they signed him? Why don't they say these things at the time?
Snodgrass and Fonte.
Fonte never played once again after Sullivan came out in the press and said that his sons begged him not to sign them. They were still West Ham United players. I don't think they've got a lot of social class. I really don't.
Look, I think it's a very personal thing to talk about class in that way. Do they make their mistakes? Absolutely. Should Karen Brady be saying stuff in a column? I completely disagree with it, and I've talked to her about it. I think it's a conflict of interest. But you know what? Well, I was with you at the meeting when you talked about it. She says no, nothing to do with West Ham. I'm going to do it. I'm going to carry on, and you know, she's stubborn on this, and has been stubborn with the chairman on this issue. I'm not the one to talk about whether they have class. Have they made mistakes? Have they? Yeah, absolutely.
And they don't learn from their mistakes. That's my point.
Yeah.
They don't. Some of these stuff is going back to 2010, 2011. We're nearly in 2020. They've had a decade of this, and they're still trying to get it right. And listen,
I'm not here to answer for them, Nicky. I know you'd like me to, but I'm not their spokesman, and I'm not their apologist. You know, do they get things wrong? I'll go back to what I say. Who's waiting? Who's banging on the door saying we'll take over West Ham? We're ready to pay the money and take over West Ham.
Well, we don't know that. None of us know that, do we? Like,
well, look at Newcastle, right? On the outside, Newcastle, big supported club. Mike Ashley, desperate to sell. £300 million is his price. Can't get a buy from anyone. Can't get out.
They had someone who was interested in taking over, but I think he wanted even a bit more. He was overcharging.
Well, I don't think so. They did their due diligence and said, no way is it worth £300 million, and pulled out. And you know, I just don't see. I don't see people queuing up to buy West Ham, and so you're going to tell me off for saying better the devil you know, but where have we don't
see the people. We didn't see the people that were lining up to buy Manchester City. We didn't see the Glazers lining up to buy Man United. You don't see it until they make it available. They're going to make it available in 2023. I've got no doubt about it. Right.
Well, we're seeing it. I don't see it, but
okay,
we're agree to disagree.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Anything for us, Sean, before we move on to
No, I don't think so. Go on.
You sure?
Go with the questions. Yeah.
Is anything you want to have a dig back? We'll take it.
No, look, you guys.
Do you think we help? Do you think we? Do you think?
I do think. I think. Look, the problem I see sometimes, and we try and be as balanced as we want, and people say, "Well, no, you're Southern's mouthpiece. You're a ball lover, etc." I do hate where we seem to be on divided lines, where you've got the people who say we're anti-board or you're pro-board, and it really hates that we're West Ham fans and you have to be on one side or the other. And I really wish there would be some common ground, and you seem to have to pick a side. You know, when you look at KUMB, Hammers Chat, yourselves, and then organisations, etc. Yeah, you can't be in between. You have to pick a side.
I think that's the nature of it.
You have to support the board or you're against the board. There's no in between.
I remember it was like that with Big Sam. I mean, I used to. I mean, during the Big Sam years, I was on your website. Like every day, you see the comments, and it was like people who defended Big Sam. People would jump on them. People was anti Big Sam. People would jump on them. And I think it's just football is a divisive sport. Everything about it.
So let me ask you one question before I go to my questions. Do you think you help West Ham United? What do you do? That you think helps push the club along?
Well, I think there was a big argument about this today on TalkSport, as it happens, with Robbie Lyle and Simon Jordan. I don't think that fans have enough voice. I don't think that they, as you know, look, I stand out on them streets after games, week in, week out. I speak to fans. I've got my ear to the ground all the time. Them Burnley protests were coming for a long, long time. And you earlier on, I know you're not an apologist. I know you're not a spokesman for them. I know you're just representing yourself. You're not representing your website or the the OSB or anything like that. But we could tell that they was coming for a long, long time. Things were getting toxic. And if you honestly get to Burnley and you're 3-0 down in that position, and you're so shocked by what's happening in front of you, then you're not listening. As I said this before, you're not listening to people. As I said before, not listening and don't care are completely different things. It's down to sort of perception, whether what one you're going to do. But I can tell you this now: when I go out on them streets, I'm not interested in what's going on inside the club. Obviously, I'm interested in it for the good of the club. I want to know if like Pellegrini should be gone today, in my opinion. you know, whether they're hanging on for it for whatever. But I give them people a voice, the people that nobody listens to, you know, the fans, you know, and if they had any common sense and they had and they cared, they would watch West Ham Fan TV, because the people that come on to West Ham Fan TV and us and all that, I'm a Canning Town boy. I was born and bred in Canning Town, born in Forest Gate, you know, grew up in Canning Town. I could walk to the Upton Park through all my childhood. I only left in my mid-20s. I left East London in my mid-20s. I have been the life soul of that club for a long time. I've had a season ticket for as long as I remember. My first game when I was about 9 years old and I wandered up there on my own. I bought club shirts, tracksuits. I followed them home and away for many, many, many years. If they don't care what I think, then they're in big trouble, or they don't want to listen. And what we do is we give people a chance to reflect what they're feeling and what they're feeling about the club. You know, I think the football club is a commercial run business. You know, they're trying every which way but loose to try and force that money out your pocket. If you didn't hear from fans, if social media didn't exist, although it can be toxic at times and you have to dig out the shit and from the gems from the shit, you know, they would just carry on just ripping people off and not worrying about what people cared. I think platforms like us, West Ham, Arsenal Fan TV, fan channels like that. I'm not here to give people exclusive breaking news. I'm not here to, you know, make up rumors or react to this or react. You know, we are an opinion channel. We are an opinion piece, and we are the real lifeblood of the club. And if they had any sense, they would talk to us and they would listen to what the people on my channel say. And that's what we give West Ham. You know, we give West Ham a chance to listen to what the people say and react to it and do something about it. Whether they do or not is up to them.
Yeah, and I get that, but there are, I guess, Arsenal TV has become a bit of a parody. You know, when I talk to some Arsenal fans, they don't connect with Arsenal TV because, you know, characters are almost formed. You know, you've got your character with Dom, and you go, you know, is this become just an people? Look, I do watch some of your stuff, and sometimes there's a lot of shouting. And you think, is it the same characters saying the same thing? Is it a balanced view across the whole away season? Or is it people that are prepared to put themselves in front of a camera? So that's my only criticism for all fan TVs, including Arsenal TV. Does it just become about people who are prepared to put themselves in front of the camera and say what they think? Or is it a true reflection of what the whole supporter base are feeling?
But we open it up to everybody.
Yeah, I know, but not everybody wants to talk in front of the camera.
Well, no, they don't have to talk in front of a camera. They can interact with us when we do shows, you know, social media tweeting shows, which a lot of people do. You know, it's an opinions game, you know, and I think that, you know, some of the owners of football clubs would do well to watch some of these and see, you know, maybe you do have to dig them out for Arsenal Fan TV a little bit more from the characters and that. But I can tell you now, the people that you're calling characters like Troops and DT, I know them people. And I know they're very passionate people. And that's what they do feel about Arsenal. They're not.
But it becomes a bit of a parody, right? A parody.
Well, the thing is, I think Arsenal are a different fan base. I think they, to a way, reflect what a lot of the fan base is of Arsenal. Arsenal are a very different fan base to West Ham Fan TV. That's why West Ham Fan TV is very different to Arsenal Fan TV if you watch it. So I don't think there's necessarily a problem in that way. But yeah, I mean, even some of the people we interview are different ages, you know, different backgrounds, and then the people that watch it again are different, all different. Just because I know what you said, like, are we only getting people who put themselves in front of the camera? But the people that watch it, who maybe are not prepared to put it in front of the camera, watch that, comment, and agree with a lot of what these different people are saying. So you're seeing that you're getting that feedback in that respect, I think, because when you're looking at people that watch it in the comments, at least.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm ready for my questions, Nicky.
We've been chatting for an hour and a half. I'm going to get questions, then we've got to talk a little bit about Southampton. Okay.
Well, at some point, I really want to talk about this Harry Redknapp thing. Obviously, you done an article on the talks of what you said on TalkSport, and that it baffles me. It really baffles me of what what he's thinking. You know, he talks about how Bobby Moore loved Golden Sullivan, and how great our training facilities are, and how great.
Yeah, well, that's Harry for you. But I tell you what, funny enough, Harry, and I found an article recently, or a front page or a back page of the Sun, where it says the Olympic Stadium, Harry Redknapp in 2011. I'll send it to you. Harry Redknapp saying the Olympic Stadium will kill West Ham. So opinions change. Have you seen that one? Yeah.
And now, these are the. But if why didn't he say at the time how great they were?
I don't know. Again, I reported that straight. Didn't put an opinion on it. Didn't say I agree with it or not. Reported it straight. Harry Redknapp, former manager, former player, said something. Reported what he said. That's what we are on Newsnight.
Full hat on. I wouldn't put it past bloody Sullivan. Harry is a little.
No, I don't. It's not as a cozy relationship between Harry and the board as you might think.
Some people are saying he's angling for a job.
A bit past it. Don't let him near the money.
Right.
Okay. Computer. Anyway, go on, Nicky.
I'll try and filter these out, Sean. Ryan Holmes says, do you think it will be difficult to attract better players to this club that we need to take us to the next level without Europe and all this bad press with the board and the happiness that the fans have, you think will affect who we can attract?
Yeah, without a doubt. The stadium, look, is a stadium to foreign players more impressive than the Bowling Ground? Yes, it is. But that's only worth a certain amount. They come for the manager. They're not stupid. Declan Rice said on a podcast recently, I don't know if you heard it, that he wants to win trophies. I wouldn't blame him if he wants to go off and play for a top six, because the career is so short for a football person. So will we attract the top people? Absolutely not. The stadium's not enough of a draw on its own.
Luke Buck says, Sean, is it true that the board give you tickets for away games that do not carry enough points for etc. Bournemouth? Is it true that you are on the fans' board group due to the fact you're the only media that backs the owner's terrible decisions? And do you think you should step down due to negative backlash you receive from fans? He hasn't really stepped down, Luke.
Yeah. So first of all, it's I love this. I get spotted, by the way, every away game. Nicky, how many have you seen me at? I was at the Brighton one, and I saw you at in the same pub.
That was a joke, by the way. I haven't seen them at all. I've seen them
apparently, I've been to Bournemouth. Never been to Bournemouth in my life. I was in Wimbledon.
You should go to Bournemouth.
I've been to Villa this year. Won it in the ballot. By the way, it was on a Wednesday night, Monday night, whatever, and nearly everybody who applied got one. I got lucky in Brighton in the ballot, but the Ticketmaster cocked it up and it was done again. I can't tell you why. No tickets are given to me by the club. I will tell you, no tickets are given away for free to any US OSB, because it would get out there. We leak and everything else would be out there. I have 2 ballots. In the past, I've not done ballots. Do I go to other games? Yes. I go to Chelsea away, go corporate through, by the way, another company I know in my business. I go to Spurs in corporate. I do not get to go to many away games. In the old days, I used to go to all the southern ones when I could. I've got 7 points, and I don't. My life and my other commitments means I can't go to a lot of the games. I would love to go to a lot more games, but I don't. But don't believe everything. I don't get free tickets. I'm not every West Ham every away game that people claim I am.
What do you think quickly about them banning people for selling on their tickets to other people, or
Yeah, I think it was wrong, and I argued. And look, before I left the OSB, I was chair of the ticket subgroup, and I got a lot of flack over it. But we bought in some certain things. We bought in the first, and I really had to lobby the club. We bought in the first time that you can sell away tickets back. We bought in the graded system for the ballot. Right? There was lots of other things we didn't get through, but there were 2 things we changed. When the people got banned for the away tickets, I also lobbied the club. One person who got banned had their ban overturned. You can ask the person, because I spoke to them. I spoke to the Football Supporters Federation. I spoke to the club. They had their ban overturned, and I helped. Not completely my doing, but I helped lobby and turn that over. The other person who came to me, I helped get their ban reduced from 6 to 4 or 3. I can't remember. I don't agree with it. There should have been a legal way to sell tickets back for away games in the first place. And I think it was over the top to ban these individuals. I know the club has to follow the law, which says ticket touting is illegal. But
what about when you've got, I mean, they done stuff like sold on, give Thomas Cook a load of tickets or StubHub, and they'd charge like 200 quid for a game.
Yeah, it's wrong. It's wrong. It's commercial deals. Not just only home tickets, but Thomas Cook. Yes, they did for commercial game. Did Bassett and Gold get some tickets last year? Away tickets? Yes, they did. They've run out now. We have got and spoken to the club. By the way, one concession I got before I left the OSB was that they will publish going forward the breakdown of the tickets. So going forward, the allocation will be broken down. Who got what? And they're going to be more transparent in that. And I hope they fulfill that. But to answer the question, whoever it was, I have stepped down for the OSB. So it's no longer an issue.
There you go.
Okay. Ask him if he thinks the only way we'll improve is with new owners. Also ask him exactly how much of their own money have the two leeches invested in the club. That's from Daniel Crawley.
So, I don't like to get personal using the word leeches, but they bought... I don't mind.
So it's my podcast.
They invested £52.5 million in 2010 when they bought 50% of the club. My understanding is 25% of that went, 25 million of that, or 27 million went to the Icelandics. The other 25 million went into capital to help the club because it was absolutely skin. Later on, I think they bought another 10% and they paid like 8 million and etc. until they owned 86%. So we know the club was valued at something like 105 million. They paid around about the 85 million pound mark to buy their shares, of which around about half of it actually went into the club as liquidity. Yeah, because there just was no money. After that, when they joined the club, they invested share holder loans, invested £52.5 million in loans, particularly when we got relegated. Of that, they have charged around £14 million, £15 million interest, of which they've taken, I don't know, I'm guessing, I can't remember the figures, about 10 million out themselves. So that's how much they've invested. That's how much they've taken out. They don't pay themselves a wage. They don't take expenses, but they do charge interest. It was at 7%. It's now at 4%.
How much of the money have they taken out in January?
In January? Mm-hmm. What do you mean? Well, in the transfer budget?
No. How much?
Oh, you mean that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. So we will find out very soon because the account's about to release. I know it's loss. So like you, I'm assuming they may have paid the chairman back the 45 million, but I doubt it. I mean, with the money that had to be invested in Pellegrini's first season, I'll be very surprised when it comes out, Nicky, that they've paid the full 45 million pound back that they were due. But I might be wrong. I really don't know. I know they've made around about a 28 million pound loss for the year. I don't know how that's accounted, but we haven't got long to wait. That will probably be out over Christmas time. The financial accounts.
James Gunn, I'm going to ask you this one. This is a bit of a rude one, but
go on.
I'll ask you anyway. But why do you call yourself a fan when all you seem to do is leak information which embarrasses the club, undermines the manager and the director of football, target the players and blames the fans for the mess we're in?
It's a criticism, and there is a fine line between a fan and being I guess a pseudo journalist. I'm not a journalist by trade, but this is part of my hobby, and and as we said, Clarence Hughes is run for business as well. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, Nicky, and I get trolled, and you have to have a really thick skin, as I know you get trolled as well.
Yeah, of course.
Right? I've got my enemies, and I've got people who don't like. Well, they don't have to listen. Do I think I've done any permanent damage to the club and really ruined a transfer deal or etc.? I don't believe so, but I'm prepared. I'm prepared for someone to pick me up on that. So I feel I tread the balance, but I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and I'm not a Marmite. People will hate me or hate me.
I appreciate you answering these, Sean, because I know they're quite difficult. Ashley Miles says, are the owners going to put the price of the football club down, meaning more realistic price, meaning they can get up and fuck off ASAP? Also, why the manager drag us into a relegation battle? Pellegrini should have been gone weeks ago.
So 2 questions there. I think I've been told by a senior source that a football club's only worth what someone is prepared to pay for it, and they're right. You know, Karen Brady puts a value of £800 million on a website on a biography. I don't know why she does that, because it's not worth £800 million. A football club is never up for a particular amount of money. You know, if someone wants to come in and you go, yeah, I'll buy that car, I'll buy this, you know, it's how much you offer, will they accept it? So it's wrong to say there's a price tag on West Ham, but anyone can put an offer in, and the shareholders can take it or leave it. What was the second part of the question?
Why have they let Pellegrini drag us into a relegation?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Look at them. If you look at their history with managers, they don't. So a kind way would say they don't make knee-jerk reactions. The unkind thing is they procrastinate for too long and usually wait too long before they actually make a final decision. By the way, I've been supported. Go on.
Someone was telling me till I was blue in the face that we can't afford to sack him. We don't have the funds.
Not true. Not true.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
I would have been very. I must admit, I would have been very surprised if that was the case. I mean,
fans don't care how much it costs to get Pellegrini. Pellegrini's a very rich man. They can negotiate. They can do deals. It's not about the money. It really isn't. But they really wanted this to come good, and I think they, you know, same with Avram Grant. I'll be honest with you. I've been a Pellegrini backer right up till Monday, and I thought, and I was wrong, that this was all about Fabianski. I thought it's Roberto, it's Fabianski. When Fabianski's back, our fortune's going to turn around. He hasn't lost the dressing room, and any time he hasn't lost the dressing room, Pellegrini will turn it around. On Monday, I reached my tipping point and said, this can't continue. This can't continue.
Yeah, it was a Newcastle game for me. And,
you know, on Saturday, if he loses, he's gone. Simple as that.
Okay. Right, I think that's about all the ones that I'm prepared to ask.
Yeah, I know there were some really good ones, but you know,
that is short term of them though. That short term thing, like if we lose, he's gone. But if we lose, he's gone. But if we win, he stays.
Well, if we win, I see he gets to the new year. Fabianski, I'm hoping will be back on Boxing Day. Let's see if that turns that around. But I don't, you know, David Martin didn't do anything wrong really on Monday.
No,
and it's not just about the keeper, is it? Really? No. I thought it was, but you know, I was wrong. And many other people
enough chances, don't score enough goals.
There's a motivation issue there.
Yeah.
Let's get on to a little preview for Southampton on Saturday. 5:30 kickoff up at St Mary's. Thank you very much for Nick Tucker for providing that away day guide. Southampton then Saturday, boys. 5:30 kickoff. This is a huge game, isn't it?
Yeah. And you know what? A bit of me says just put us out of our misery and move on rather than. And I know that's awful to weigh. Why would you ever want West Ham to lose? But I've got a season ticket holder Saints fan, and at work, and I said I usually have a £1 bet with him, and I said, you know what, this year I don't even want the draw. I want to bet on Saints winning, and that's an awful position to be. I just don't see us turning up, and you know, I did a story on this. Look, I'm not going. I've got my kids this weekend, but I would have gone because guess what? This game sold out to 2 priority points, which is the lowest it's ever been for a Southern game.
Yeah.
For a weekend game, 2 points. All the people who say they can't get tickets, this was the one to go for. And as you know, Wolves sold out, went to general sale. Crystal Palace is only 10 points. So, I know you'll be going, and I'm always
actually, Sean, I might not be. It's my birthday.
Oh, really? Oh, right. But yeah, the people who do the hard miles, and I said this, and the people who do the hard miles are to be congratulated. They go up and down the country supporting it, and it must be hard, and the effort you put in. So I just hope the boys turn up and show gratitude to the away army and the miles they put in, because I just don't see that at the moment. And it must be, to go to every away game, it must feel tough.
It is tough. I must admit. The thing is, the comments from the manager from last week, they don't fill me with a lot of confidence. If I'm honest, the home games are more important. I can understand what he's saying, but it's a kick in the teeth. I had such a hard week last week. Me personally, going up to Wolves, because I work full time as well. This is not my job yet. I'll get up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning on a Monday to Friday and go to work. And you're driving home from Wolves, getting home 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I had such a hard week after that. I was running on about 6 or 7 hours sleep throughout the week, I think, by the time I got to Monday. And to hear the manager turn around and say, we're not really targeting away games. Well, we better be targeting this one, because, as I said, we haven't been great at home. We haven't won at home since September, since we beat Manchester United. And, we need to get the points off of Southampton, because if we don't, it's going to be a long, hard Christmas for us, because they'll leapfrog us in the table, because we haven't got a game against Liverpool next week. It's a great possibility that other teams could as well. It's a possibility we could go second from bottom. The saving grace is we can't go bottom because Watford can't get enough points.
Well, I don't see Villa winning, though. Do you? Do you see Villa beating Sheffield United?
Well, Newcastle did, and I wouldn't have seen them. It's a funny old game. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. It's not a given that we're going to be outside the relegation for Christmas, and they've got to turn up. I think this is a real 6-pointer, because you need to put some distance between. Yeah.
Whatever we finish. This is what we'll be for Christmas Day, as you say, because there's no Liverpool game, and we play Palace on Boxing Day, and what's it then? A really tough game against Leicester, and then Bournemouth. And this is the time to change the manager, right? So you've got that little period.
I saw someone say that if we're in the relegation, I don't know how true this is, but if we're in the relegation zone, it's cheaper to sack Pellegrini. We pay him less if we sack him. I don't know if you've heard anything like that, but
not true.
That was ex-employee who said that.
Oh, was it?
I know, and then he updated the story afterwards to say he'd been told by another source that it was not true.
Oh. Okay. Fair enough. I didn't see the update, but I just have if we haven't seen anything from the team now, he doesn't really change Pellegrini. I can't see him change the style of playing, how we play, and all of that. So I can't see what he's really going to drastically do differently. We may, Southampton might not turn up, and we might scrape a win, get a lucky goal. And then if we do scrape a win and get a lucky goal, and you look at that and you think, oh, what is he just going to get more time?
I think, well, that's the problem. I don't.
This is it, and I can understand where Sean came from when he said, I hope they put us out of our misery, because this is a double-edged sword. We need to win, but if we win, we might be subjected to him for another few games. I think the Chelsea game was a fluke. I think it was a fluke. I think Chelsea. With a nine.
Or was it? Who took training before Chelsea game?
Oh, this is goes to a story on your website I read earlier on. That's a very interesting, actually. I did want to touch on that about
Enzo Maresca.
That's it.
Enzo Maresca.
I don't know if you read this, Nick.
Took training before the Chelsea game, and he's very well liked by the players. He's very well rated, and I'll do a little prediction. He's going to be our caretaker, in my view. Not a secret source, etc., or whatever. He is likely to be our caretaker manager.
Yeah, didn't you also mention about, was it Mark Noble or I don't know if it's Mark Noble or the players in general making their voices heard about how good the training was under this guy?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, yeah. I thought you were going to say something else about Mark Noble. It wasn't true that they'd gone to the board with a player delegation to say how bad the manager was. That wouldn't happen. That's not Mark Noble's done. 90 Minutes said that today, but it's you know, it's a feeding frenzy for these kind of stories. But Mark Noble, he's more stylish than that. He wouldn't do that kind of thing. He's more loyal than that. But apparently they Enzo played. Was it West Brom? Something to do with West Brom. Yeah. He's well liked. He's well liked by that. So there's no natural successor, is there, to step in and be caretaker manager?
Not
I think
moment,
Trevor Brooking slightly a bit old, and I can't see Billy Bonds coming back, and certainly Harry Redknapp. So I think that's where we may end up.
It's crazy though that obviously, you know, say that's how it was. He took training before Chelsea. The players loved the training. You know, it paid off on the pitch, and then we've just gone back to, you know, how Pellegrini does things, and how we were doing things before, and we've not been winning. And it's really strange to me.
Yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of whether. You know, I just know he did take the training before Chelsea and we did win. Whether the two things are connected, I do know he's like other players. Whether you can connect all the dots, I don't know, but maybe.
Very interesting. So,
I mean, let's go predictions.
Prediction.
We'll go guess. Well, I'll go. Oh, I hate predicting a loss. Really do, but I'm gonna predict a 1-0 loss because I just want this to be over and move on from the whole Pellegrini thing.
Do you know what? I agree with you, you know, a bit there. Like I say, I mean, I hate wishing for a loss. I don't know if I fully am committed to wishing for that. I wouldn't see West Ham lose and put us in a bad position. I want Pellegrini gone. But knowing West Ham and knowing how things go, I think we'll get a draw. I think it'll be like a 1-0, and then it'll just will end up like, where does this leave the manager? And then he may just get a little bit more time. And yeah, like a 1-0, I can see.
I never want West Ham to lose. I know, you know, it is a bit of a double-edged sword. The fact that the board have put us in this position where they just haven't got rid of him, and you know, people have to hope for a loss just to put us out of our misery, I think is poor by them. I see this being, and I hate doing this, I see this being an absolute tonking by Southampton. I see them absolutely turn, because don't forget, you know, we are that bad that it could easily happen. But they need this win. They need it for themselves. And we haven't got an absolute. We haven't got an absolute. Oh, sorry, the dog's going now. We haven't got an absolute brilliant record against Southampton, if my memory serves me correctly. No. I remember more losses against them than wins over the last 10 or 12 years. You know, championship together and all of that. I don't see.
And their striker's on fire. I've got him in the fancy league, so I know how many he's scored. Yeah. Ings is for fire.
Ings is banging them in. It was reported that, you know, Fabianski was targeting this game. I don't think he's going to make the new year now.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
Well, I think Boxing Day is what he's targeting.
Do we know if Antonio will be available? Will be fit? I mean, he looked in a bad way. I mean, I'm not saying but I don't know if his match fitness is there. He looked in a bad way at the end of that Arsenal game.
I think he's got a special training regime. I don't know. I haven't heard any team news yet on whether he's going to be fit, but I think he's not fully fit, and he showed that on Monday. So I wouldn't be surprised when they do the press conference if they say he's a doubt and he's got a late, you know, fitness test. But I don't know that as a fact.
Because it's just the thing of whether you have him on the bench or you try and have him start, because we know we don't play to Aller's strengths, and so when he's on, there's at least a bit more directness, I think. But I just don't think he was fit enough to make an impact against Arsenal. Antonio, you know,
I agree with you.
So knackered. So if we go into Southampton, he's in the same state, we're gonna really have no threat. So we'll see.
Right. Okay, thank you so much to our guest. We was going to do Tales from the Terrace. We got this little feature that we got at Tales from the Terrace. I told everyone last week about my my terrible Manchester United experience from was it last season, Dan?
Well, it was Yeah, no, it was the 4-0. I think it might have been last season. Our Manchester experience, your fuck up.
Yeah. It was just a terrible day all around. And we did ask people to put, maybe Sean's got one. I know it's a little bit on the spot, but we did ask people to email in with funny stories, sad stories, emotional stories, any stories from the terraces throughout the years. And then I forgot to set up the email until today.
Yeah. Well, I've got one story from the old South Bank. I was a South Bank boy. I didn't have a season ticket at the time. You just turned up, didn't you? Paid your £5, got in the South Bank in the 80s. And I remember, being on the South Bank with those metal railings, and as they sung Knees Up Mother Brown, you get pushed, etc. But the one thing I always remember was you could never put your coat down on the floor because the yellow waterfalls, people would not give up. People don't realise it. The modern fan don't realise this. You could never put anything on the floor because people would not leave. They just couldn't get out. They would piss where they stand.
They would piss in newspapers, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, piss in bottles, piss. But some just piss, and it would all come down the things. If you left a coat or anything on the floor, it would just be covered in piss. Those days are well gone. But you know what? I remember the South Bank days with great fondness.
I was a South Bank boy myself. Yeah.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
We have more in common than you think, Nicky.
Yeah, I know, mate. Yeah. I just about made the terraces when I first went 92. The Taylor report and all that had just been done. They was just about to change them. I think the Bobby Moore stand was 93.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that, yeah. It got opened in 93. But yeah, I just went just before they went. So I'm glad to experience them. Sean, I've got to thank you very much, mate. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast. I know it's not been easy. I know it's not been difficult, and we've thrashed a few things out. Maybe we can return a favour because let me tell a little story.
Go on.
I don't know whether you know this, actually.
Go on.
End of season on the Hammers Chats boats.
Yeah.
And we nearly had a bit of a ruckus with your podcast.
Oh, I know you did. I just left, by the way. I just left.
I saw you. Yeah, I saw you leaving out as we was having another ruckus on the way in.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I saw you have the ruckus on the way in, which was a guest of the Hammers Chat people. But yeah.
So maybe we can come on and maybe we can have a few chats on yours and we can thrash a few things out.
Yeah, I think so. Look, what I can tell you about that night is a lot of people had a lot to drink, and I think there was misunderstandings on both sides. I wasn't there because I'd already left with my kids, but I know people who know you. I've heard your side of the story. I've heard their side of the story. But we're all West Ham family, and there's no reason for us to be enemies. There's no reason for any hatred, etc. I just think, we us West Ham fans got to stick together, in my view.
It's either that, Sean, or I come on and we start the podcast wars.
We've only got 8 listeners, if you've ever listened. We've only got 8 listeners. So.
Thank you so much, Sean, for coming on. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Have you got your Christmas jumper yet, Dan? Have I still got that?
You've still got that. My mum told me about. She wants her one as well. Don't forget that one.
Yeah, I've put some orders in. Sean, you can go and get a Christmas jumper if you want one, mate. I'm sure we can get you over one. But thank you very much for everyone to listening. Thank you very much to our guest, Sean. Sean, give yourself some promotion before we go, mate.
Well, yeah, after you've listened to this 2-hour podcast, you can listen to more than just a podcast. We've done a 1 hour, 51 minutes, I think, this week, with the absence of the West Ham way. So you could go podcast crazy. And obviously, for all your West Ham news, go to clarenthugh.info.
Thank you very much. Thanks to Dan. One thing left to say, boys.
Come on, you Irons.
Come on, you Irons.